Hi, hello. My name is Alex. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. This is my first video ever here on YouTube, and I'm so excited to finally be part of the BookTube community. I've been on Instagram for a little over a year as the.pharmd.reads, and I'll link that username down below if you want to follow me there. Today I want to talk about my favorite reads of the year so far, and there's actually not that many of them. I've had a really weird year since I moved from Florida to Denver, Colorado. That was a huge life change for my family and I, and it's been a little bit of a rough reading year, so I'm really excited to talk about these books. Hopefully it will give you some inspiration for your never-ending TBR as well. Without further ado, let's get into it. So the first books that I want to talk about I'm not sure of the grammar on that, is the original Mistborn trilogy by Brandon Sanderson. I found these books to be unputdownable. I think Vin is one of the most charismatic and just such an introspective young woman, and to see her journey from basically being like a street rat urchin to becoming this hero, literal hero of the ages, if you know, you know. I just thought that everything about Brandon Sanderson's writing is right with fantasy. Like, he gives high fantasy like a George R.R. Martin series might give high fantasy, and he is very descriptive, especially involving the fight scenes and the action, but he's not so descriptive that it takes you out of the writing. We're not talking about what people are eating for 17 pages at a time. I absolutely loved these books. I'm so excited to get into more of the Cosmere. I don't know what to read next. This is still the only Brandon Sanderson that I've read, so if anyone has any suggestions on what I should read after the original Mistborn trilogy, please let me know down below. I do plan on reading the other 3 to 5 books, I think, that are part of the Mistborn saga. I just have not gotten around to it yet. Easy 5 stars, all 3 of them. Loved it, loved it, loved it. The next book that I want to talk about is Misery by Stephen King. I'm so excited that I finally got around to reading this book this year. I love Stephen King, but I have to be in a Stephen King mood. When I'm in that mood, I will probably read like 3 or 4 Stephen King things, one right after the other. So this was my first delve into this year's Stephen King mood, which is just in time for fall and winter, shocking. Misery was so good and scary and terrifying and thrilling and heart-pounding and wonderful in every single way. Stephen King's writing can be so dad jokey at times. I don't know how to describe it. Very old school, very New England dad, but he also packs so much tension and fear into his scenes that it makes up for that kind of writing that I personally sometimes cannot quite connect with. What I love about this book is Annie's actions seem so unreasonable that every time you get to a scene and you're like, she's not gonna do that thing that I think she's gonna do, but then jump scare, she does that thing. And it gets worse and worse and worse, but it's bad from the beginning. I don't want to include any spoilers because I do personally think that this is the scariest Stephen King book that I've ever read. I have read it, and I have also read Pet Sematary, which a lot of people say that Pet Sematary is his scariest book, but I am coming in with a hot take, and I think that Misery takes that spot. I actually listened to this book almost entirely, I think, except I maybe read from my physical copy a chapter or 2. I listened to this entire book on audio. It was narrated by Lindsay Krause, and I think she did an incredible job narrating it. I think the audiobook is what made it so scary for me. It really created an atmosphere of isolation, dread, pure terror, survival instinct, and she was able to differentiate between Annie and between Paul's POVs so flawlessly that I couldn't even tell that it was a single woman narrating both characters. And we get a lot of POV from Paul's inner monologue, and I think she does great with showing his kind of delve into insanity because he's holed up in this crazy lady's cabin in the middle of the woods in Colorado, which was another thing that I thought was really cool, that this took place in Colorado. Please let me know if you've read this book, if you like Stephen King, what Stephen King books I should read this fall. The ones that I mentioned are are some that I've read. I've also read the 11/22/63 book. I've read the Mr. Mercedes series, but I'm always looking for, again, more books to add to my never-ending TBR. So please let me know in the comments. The next book that I am so excited to talk about and is really contending for perhaps my favorite read of the entire year is The Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne. This is the first in the Bloodsworn saga. Books 1 and 2 are both out. The second one is called The Hunger of the Gods. The third one is still not come out, but I have read this one. I have not read The Hunger of the Gods yet. It's coming up soon for sure in an upcoming TBR / read with me / something video. But for now, I want to talk about how good this book is. This is a dark, grimy, brutal, cold, wintry, Nordic Game of Thrones, and I absolutely devoured it. It is so atmospheric. I pictured a lot of grays and icy tones, just dismal conditions. Some of the descriptions that I actually loved the most in this book were of the outfits and the fighting gear and the weapons and hairstyles of the characters in the book. It really lets you picture a very like Game of Thrones / Vikings, like Nordic, icy, wintry. Everything was happening on a glacier for me. I don't know what to say. This follows 3 POVs. We have Orca, who is a mom on a quest to get some revenge for some things that I'm not going to spoil. We have Varg, who is basically a slave that ends up in a famous like mercenary group called the Bloodsworn. And then we also have a third POV, Elvar, and she actually is also part of a different group of mercenaries, and she's out trying to find her place in the world and have this great adventure, but she's got some secrets of her own as well. What I love about multiple POVs in a book like this, especially a fantasy, is when they all kind of converge at the end and they give you this really satisfying resolution of, oh, this is how these 3 seemingly unrelated people actually are gonna be super involved with each other. And the last page / cliffhanger-y type of situation that we had at the end of this book had me gasping. I am so excited to get to the second book. I cannot even explain. This is an easy 5-star, easy new favorite author. I'm so excited to read more John Gwynne, and I can't wait to see where he takes this. And also, look at this perfect cover, please. Look at it. Can we look at it? Are you looking at it? Thank you, because it's really good. Sorry, my camera died, so if the angle is a little bit different, because I had to change my battery, and I don't know how you're supposed to get your camera in the exact same place that you had it before. When I say that Mayfly is the spooky Halloween vibes, American Psycho, LA Sunset Boulevard mashup of your dreams, I couldn't be more serious. This book follows our main character, Maeve, who works at what is very clearly Disneyland, obviously. She lives with her dying grandmother, who was a famous actress, and she kind of learned everything from her grandma. She was raised by her. And her best friend is Kate. They work together at the fake Disneyland, and Kate's brother shows up to town, and then shit goes real bad real quickly. Basically, they enter this like very whirlwind affair, but it's really gruesome and vulgar and sexually charged and passionate, but also very, very, very messed up. This book is so good. It's set during Halloween time, and that's Maeve's favorite. Like, she plays Halloween songs year round. All she likes is Halloween. She goes and gets dressed up to the nines. Like, it's her favorite thing. So I love that it gave very spooky Halloween fall vibes, because although it's still summer, I am ready for those kinds of reading sessions where we're putting on a cozy fall ambience room on YouTube and we're reading our spooky Halloween books. Maeve is an absolute psychopath, and you kind of see her delve into that psychopathy over the course of the book, where it's fueled by her affair with Kate's brother, but it's also her kind of releasing it all from out within her. She's been keeping it pent up inside, and you know how some of us like do that with our emotions or our anger? She does it with her bloodlust. So I would look up trigger warnings if I were you. This book had a lot of really gross scenes, body horror, very descriptive and very specifically weird sexual things. So if anything like that is an issue for you, please look it up. I loved this book. It was an easy 5-star for me, and I can't wait to see more from this author. we shouldn't be surprised. The next book that I want to talk about is Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas, the queen herself. The hype on this was so real, I don't even know where to start. I've read ACOTAR twice, and I've read Crescent City, both books, but the first one, House of Earth and Breath. The House of Earth and Blood? What? That's embarrassing. House of Earth and Blood. I absolutely loved this. My favorite thing about this is Selena so far. She is such a badass female main character. I know I said Vin from Mistborn is like a badass, but Selena is also pretty up there. She just knows what she wants, and she knows where she's willing to go, both physically and emotionally, to get it. And I like that she holds true to herself. She doesn't waver as much as like Feyre did in so many situations. If you know, you know. And also I'm Team Kale, and if that's not you, that's fine, but you're wrong. And it's Team Kale. I love Kale. I think he's so broody and moody, and he's her bodyguard basically, and I just love that kind of a trope on the romance side of things. I am enjoying the fact that this series already seems so much more action-packed than the other two series by Sarah J. Maas that I've read. And although I do love the little romance triangle between Selena and Kale and Dorian, I do also enjoy that the romance isn't the forefront, and it's really Selena, her past, how it will connect to her future. That's the important part of the book. I'm also really excited to see how her connections to Terrasen and what happened with her family, how that storyline will play out. And I can't wait to get into the rest of the series. I had this copy of the original series. I've had it for years on my shelf, and I finally picked it up and then immediately bought the UK covers. So I have this whole, let me show you better. I have the whole series of this cover set. Finally, the last book that I want to talk about on this list of my favorite reads of 2023 so far is Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. And yes, this is the German edition. I did not get the sprayed edges, which I was really sad about, but just look at how stunning the naked cover is. I absolutely loved this book. I was of the camp that the hype was real. This was the first book that got me out of my major reading slump from moving this year, and so I have to give it I have to thank it for that. I do agree with a lot of the hype is not real crowd, that the writing and the dialogue can be a little bit cheesy and immature at times. I am okay with that. I don't really care. It's really fun. And also we all like different things. So like I can appreciate that something is enjoyable and fun and give it a 4 or a 5 star, and also realize that maybe the writing's not that good, or maybe like the dialogue is just like this, you know, that's fine. That's fine. This is so fun. It's action-packed. It's fast-paced. I loved the politics. So this book follows Violet Sorensen, whose mom is the general of Navarre where she lives. And Violet has always had plans of just being like a low-key scribe. She wants to read her bookies and write her notes just like the rest of us. But those plans get foiled when her mom is like, I'm not going to have a scribe for a daughter. You're going to the writer's quadrant. And basically from there, it's full of challenges, both physical and mental, overcoming obstacles. There is a huge theme of handicaps and disabilities because Violet has both of those things. And I also loved the romance. I thought the romance was really fun. I think Xaden being a shadow daddy, I'll give it that. Was it insta-love? Yes, it was. Did it blossom into this like great, beautiful, grand romance? No. It's just so fun. And like the dragons, Tairn and Ondarna, make this book, they brought it to a 5 star. This is the first time that I've ever read a book where the dragons actually were able to communicate and speak, and I love that. That's like my new favorite trope in any sort of fantasy book ever. I'm so excited to see where Rebecca Yarros is going to take this series. I have already pre-ordered Iron Flame. I am here for the hype. I have heard rumors that she's doing 5 books, and I will pre-order and read every single 5 of them. And that's it. Those were my favorite reads of 2023 so far. Thank you so much for watching my very first video, and I hope that you consider liking and subscribing. I will leave my Instagram handle down below if you also want to follow me over at the.pharmd.reads on Instagram. I love to talk books, and I'm so happy that I have so many new reading buddies. Thank you again, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.